Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Wherever you are in the world, I want you to stop what you're doing for the next few minutes because what I'm about to share with you could genuinely change the way you move, the way you feel, and the way you live for the rest of your life. Here is something most doctors will never say out loud in their office. Your legs are not just getting weaker because you're getting older. Your legs are getting weaker because nobody told you what to feed them, and there is a massive difference between those two things. One is a sentence, the other is a solution. I am Dr. Alan Mandell, and today I'm going to give you that solution. 6 specific foods ranked from helpful to absolutely transformational that can rebuild your leg strength, restore your muscle tissue, and give you back the stability and confidence you thought were gone forever. Now, before I go any further, let me share something that stopped me cold when I first read it. A landmark study published by the Journal of the American Geriatric Society found that adults over the age of 65 who experienced significant lower body muscle weakness had a 72% higher risk of mobility disability within 5 years, and an alarming increase in fall-related hospitalizations, nursing home admissions, and early mortality. 72%. That is not a small number. That is nearly 3 out of 4 people who could have intervened earlier but didn't because they didn't know what we now know about nutrition, muscle biology, and the aging body. And I'll tell you right now, the number one food on this list is something you probably have in your kitchen right now. Something you may have even been told to avoid, and something that researchers at Harvard Medical School now believe is one of the most powerful muscle protective compounds available to humans over the age of 60. I'm going to save that one for last because once you hear it, you'll never look at your grocery list the same way again. But before we dive into the list, I want to ask you something personal. Leave a comment below telling me how old you are and whether you've noticed your legs feeling weaker, heavier, or less stable than they used to be. Maybe going upstairs feels harder. Maybe you've had a near fall. Maybe getting up from a chair takes more effort than it once did. I read every single comment on this channel. Everyone. And your story might be the reason someone else finds this video and changes their life. So please take 30 seconds and share with me. Now, let's begin. We are counting down from 6 to 1, from powerful to life-changing. Coming in at number 6, and this one surprises almost everyone I tell it to: eggs. I know. You've heard the egg debate your entire life. They raise your cholesterol, they're bad for your heart. Put them down, walk away. And I am here to tell you, with the full weight of current nutritional science behind me, that this advice, especially for adults over 60, was one of the most damaging pieces of health guidance ever widely circulated. Because here is what eggs actually do for your aging legs. Eggs are one of the most complete sources of leucine on the planet. Now, leucine is an amino acid, and if that term is unfamiliar to you, think of leucine as the key that starts the engine of muscle protein synthesis, the biological process by which your body actually builds and repairs muscle tissue. After the age of 65, your body develops what researchers call anabolic resistance. That means your muscles become stubborn. They no longer respond as efficiently to protein signals. They need a stronger trigger to get the same response. Leucine is that trigger, and 2 large whole eggs deliver approximately 1.6 grams of leucine, which research from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign found was sufficient to meaningfully stimulate muscle protein synthesis, even in older adults with significant anabolic resistance. But here's what makes eggs special beyond leucine. The yolk, the part everyone told you to throw away, contains choline, vitamin D, and a remarkable compound called phosphatidylcholine that helps maintain the integrity of your muscle cell membranes. As we age, those membranes become more fragile, less capable of holding on to the nutrients that muscles need to contract and recover. The yolk essentially acts as a protective coating for your muscle cells. Throwing it away is like buying a car and leaving the engine at the dealership. A patient of mine, Margaret, 74, from Sarasota, Florida, came to me after her second fall in 6 months. She was terrified of her own staircase. She had been on a low-fat diet for over a decade, avoiding eggs completely on the advice of an older physician. We added 3 whole eggs per day to her morning routine. Within 8 weeks, she told me she walked up her stairs without holding the railing for the first time in 2 years. That is not a coincidence. That is leucine, choline, and vitamin D doing exactly what the science says they should do. For best results, eat 2 to 3 whole eggs in the morning, ideally with a small amount of healthy fat like olive oil or avocado, which we'll discuss shortly. The fat improves absorption of the fat-soluble vitamins in the yolk. Do not scramble them in a dry pan. Light heat, gentle cooking, preserves the integrity of the proteins. Moving to number 5 on our countdown, wild-caught salmon. If your legs feel heavy, if they cramp at night, if they ache when you wake up in the morning, there is a very good chance that chronic inflammation is quietly destroying your muscle tissue while you sleep. And wild-caught salmon is one of nature's most potent anti-inflammatory weapons ever discovered. The active compounds here are EPA and DHA omega-3 fatty acids. And before your eyes glaze over at those letters, let me explain what they actually do inside an aging body. Think of inflammation in your muscle tissue like a forest fire. It starts small, burns constantly at a low level, and over years and decades, it chars everything around it. The muscle fibers, the connective tissue, the nerve pathways that send signals from your brain to your legs telling them to move. EPA and DHA are the water-bombing aircraft. They don't just soothe the fire, they chemically neutralize the inflammatory compounds, specifically a group called prostaglandins and cytokines that your body produces in increasing amounts after the age of 60. A study from the University of Aberdeen in Scotland followed 87 adults over the age of 65 for 18 weeks. The group that consumed omega-3 fatty acids equivalent to approximately 3 servings of wild salmon per week experienced a 22% increase in muscle protein synthesis rate compared to the control group. 22%. That is not a supplement. That is a fish. But salmon has another gift for aging legs that almost nobody talks about. It is one of the very few dietary sources of vitamin D3, the active form of vitamin D that your skin can no longer produce efficiently after the age of 70. Research published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology found that vitamin D deficiency, which affects an estimated 77% of adults over 65, is directly associated with muscle weakness, impaired balance, and an elevated risk of sarcopenia, which is the medical term for age-related muscle loss. One 6-ounce serving of wild-caught sockeye salmon delivers up to 988 international units of vitamin D3. The recommended daily minimum for adults over 70 is 800 IU. You get it in one meal. Eat salmon 2 to 3 times per week. Wild-caught is critically important. Farm salmon has a dramatically different omega-3 to omega-6 ratio and does not provide the same anti-inflammatory benefit. Pair it with a handful of dark leafy greens to maximize the vitamin K2 synergy, which we'll touch on with our next item. Number 4 on the countdown, and this one has an almost mythological reputation among longevity researchers: spinach and dark leafy greens. I want you to think about every elderly person you've ever seen who moved with grace, who got up from a chair without pushing off the armrests, who walked without shuffling. I would bet a significant amount that dark leafy greens were a regular part of their diet. Here is the biology of why. After the age of 75, your body loses approximately 35% of its ability to recycle nitric oxide, a molecule that acts like a traffic controller for blood flow in your legs. When nitric oxide levels fall, your microcirculation, the tiny blood vessels feeding your quadriceps, your hamstrings, your calves, begins to congest. Nutrients can't get in. Waste products can't get out. The result is muscles that fatigue faster, recover slower, and shrink year by year. Spinach, kale, Swiss chard, and arugula are loaded with dietary nitrates, which your body converts back into nitric oxide through a process involving bacteria in your saliva. You are essentially using food to bypass what aging has taken away. A remarkable study from Karolinska Institute in Sweden found that inorganic nitrate supplementation, at doses equivalent to about 200 grams of spinach, improves skeletal muscle efficiency in older adults by 19%. The muscle didn't grow bigger, it simply became more efficient at using the oxygen and nutrients that were already arriving. Think of it like upgrading the fuel injection system in an old engine. The engine doesn't change, but it runs smoother, runs cleaner, and runs longer. Spinach is also extraordinarily rich in magnesium, a mineral that 68% of Americans over 60 are chronically deficient in. Magnesium is required for over 300 enzymatic reactions in the body, and among the most critical is muscle relaxation. When your legs cramp at night, when your calves seize up, when your feet curl involuntarily, that is almost always a magnesium signal. 1 cup of cooked spinach delivers 157 milligrams of magnesium, roughly 37% of your daily requirement in a single serving. I had a patient named Robert, 71 years old, a retired postal worker from Cincinnati, who came to me with what he described as legs that felt like they were filled with concrete every morning. He had been taking magnesium supplements for years with limited success. We switched his approach, 2 cups of sautéed spinach daily with olive oil and garlic. 6 weeks later, he told me the concrete feeling was gone. He was walking his old mail route again, just for exercise, for the joy of it. The olive oil, by the way, dramatically increases the absorption of the fat-soluble compounds in spinach. Always cook your greens in a quality fat. Right here, right between item 4 and item 3, I want to pause and ask you something. If this information has already opened your eyes to something you didn't know before, please hit that like button right now. It tells YouTube to share this video with more seniors who need exactly this information. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Every week I bring you clinically grounded, practical health information designed specifically for adults who want to live stronger, longer, and on their own terms. The subscribe button is right there. It takes 1 second, and it might be one of the best health decisions you make today. Now, number 3, and we are in elite territory now, Greek yogurt. Most people think of yogurt as a light snack, something you eat when you're trying to be good. What most people don't realize is that full-fat Greek yogurt is one of the most anabolically powerful foods available to an aging human body, and it is dramatically underutilized as a muscle-building tool in seniors. Here is why it belongs on this list. A single cup of plain, full-fat Greek yogurt contains approximately 17 to 20 grams of high-quality protein, and critically, it contains a specific profile of amino acids, including leucine again, isoleucine, and valine, the 3 branch-chain amino acids that are directly absorbed into muscle tissue with remarkable efficiency. Unlike plant proteins, which are often incomplete and require combination with other foods to be fully utilized, the protein in Greek yogurt is what scientists call highly bioavailable. It doesn't take the scenic route, it goes directly to where your muscles need it. But here is the piece that truly elevates Greek yogurt above a simple protein source for older adults. It contains live probiotic cultures, specifically lactobacillus, which influence something researchers now call the gut-muscle axis. This is a relatively new field of study, and the findings are extraordinary. Research from the University of California, Davis found that healthy gut microbiome populations in older adults were directly correlated with greater lean muscle mass, better leg strength scores, and faster recovery from physical exertion. The gut, it turns out, is not just digesting your food, it is regulating how much of that food your muscles can actually use. After the age of 65, the gut microbiome typically becomes less diverse, less robust, and less efficient at extracting nutrients from food. Probiotic-rich foods like Greek yogurt help restore that diversity. Think of it like restocking a library that has been slowly losing its books. The more complete the library, the better your body can find and use the information it needs. For maximum benefit, consume your Greek yogurt within 30 to 45 minutes of any physical activity. Even a short walk counts. This is your anabolic window, the period when your muscles are most receptive to protein signals. Add a tablespoon of ground flaxseed for additional omega-3s, or a drizzle of raw honey, which contains enzymes that can further improve probiotic survival in the digestive tract. Always choose plain, full-fat versions. The low-fat versions typically replace the fat with added sugar, which drives the inflammation we are trying to fight. Now we are at number 2, and I promised you early in this video that one of the top items would surprise you. This is the one. Number 2, beets. I can see some of you smiling. Some of you are skeptical, and I understand completely because beets are not the first thing that comes to mind when you think about building strong legs. But the research behind beets and physical performance in older adults is so compelling that major sports medicine institutions have now integrated beet-derived compounds into recovery protocols. This is not folk medicine. This is frontier science applied to the aging body. The mechanism centers on those dietary nitrates I mentioned with spinach, but beets contain them in concentrations that are roughly 3 to 4 times higher per gram than any leafy green. One medium beet contains approximately 300 milligrams of dietary nitrates. When those nitrates reach the oxygen-depleted environment of working muscle tissue, they are converted into nitric oxide with extraordinary efficiency, and the result is something researchers call a vasodilatory cascade, a wave of blood vessel opening that floods your legs with oxygen and nutrients in a way that aging vascular tissue normally cannot produce on its own. A study conducted at Wake Forest University found that older adults who consumed beet juice, the equivalent of 2 medium beets, before moderate exercise showed a 38% increase in blood flow to the white matter regions of the brain associated with motor control. Let me say that differently. Beets didn't just improve what was happening in their legs, they improved the brain's ability to control their legs. For seniors concerned about falls, about coordination, about the nerve-to-muscle communication that erodes with age, this is enormous. Beets are also rich in betaine, a compound that reduces homocysteine levels in the blood. Elevated homocysteine, which affects approximately 47% of adults over 60, is associated with accelerated muscle loss, vascular damage, and impaired mitochondrial function. The mitochondria are your muscle cells' power generators. When they are damaged, your muscles run like a car with a failing battery. Betaine helps clean the chemistry that protects those generators. My patient Elena, 68 from Portland, Oregon, came to me after being told by 3 separate physicians that her leg weakness and chronic fatigue were simply part of aging. She was 68 years old and walking with a cane. We added 2 roasted beets to her lunch 4 days a week. We also added a short daily walk. Within 12 weeks, she returned to my office without the cane. She was gardening again. She cried when she told me. I didn't mind admitting that I found that moment deeply moving as well. Roast your beets at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 45 to 60 minutes to concentrate the nitrates without destroying them. You can also blend raw beets into a smoothie with a small amount of citrus juice. The vitamin C in citrus dramatically increases nitrate conversion efficiency. Do not boil beets for long periods, as water-soluble nitrates leach out. Pair beets with any source of lean protein, and you have one of the most powerful pre-activity meals available to the aging body. And now, number 1, the food that I mentioned at the opening of this video. The food that researchers at Harvard Medical School have identified as one of the most powerful muscle protective compounds available to humans over the age of 60. The food that has been unfairly demonized, avoided, and eliminated from the diets of millions of seniors based on outdated science. Number 1, extra virgin olive oil. I know some of you expected a protein, a superfood powder, something exotic. And I want you to stay with me because what I'm about to explain about extra virgin olive oil and the aging muscular system will fundamentally reframe how you think about fat, inflammation, and the architecture of a strong body. Let's begin with what makes extra virgin olive oil categorically different from every other dietary fat on the planet. It contains a compound called oleocanthal. Oleocanthal is a natural polyphenol, a plant compound that functions in your body almost identically to ibuprofen. Identical mechanism. It inhibits the same inflammatory enzymes, COX-1 and COX-2, that prescription anti-inflammatory medications target. The difference is that oleocanthal does this without the gastric bleeding, kidney strain, and cardiovascular risk associated with long-term NSAID use. And for seniors who are disproportionately medicated with anti-inflammatories for joint and muscle pain, this is a critical distinction. But the muscle-specific benefits go far beyond anti-inflammation. A landmark study from the University of Athens, published in Clinical Nutrition, followed 840 adults over the age of 65 for 3 years. Those who consumed a minimum of 4 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil daily showed a 37% lower incidence of sarcopenia compared to those who rarely consumed it. Sarcopenia, again, that is the technical term for the progressive involuntary loss of muscle mass and strength that begins around age 40 and accelerates dramatically after 60. 37% lower from olive oil. Here is the biological mechanism, and this is the part that Harvard researchers have found most compelling. The polyphenols in extra virgin olive oil, and there are over 30 distinct ones, appear to directly stimulate what is called mTOR pathway signaling in muscle cells. The mTOR pathway is the master switch for muscle protein synthesis. It is the same pathway that leucine activates, that resistance exercise activates, that anabolic hormones activate. Olive oil polyphenols turn on that switch independently. They do not require exercise. They do not require elevated hormones. They work in the cell regardless of what else is happening around it. After the age of 70, your body loses approximately 40% of its mTOR sensitivity. Your muscles are harder to build, not just because of less protein intake or less exercise, but because the biological machinery that builds them is running at diminished capacity. Extra virgin olive oil is one of the very few dietary compounds that appears capable of partially restoring that sensitivity. Think of it like recalibrating a thermostat that has been set too low for too long. And then there is the mitochondrial dimension. Research from the University of Jaén in Spain found that hydroxytyrosol, another polyphenol found abundantly in extra virgin olive oil, protects mitochondrial DNA in muscle cells from oxidative damage. As we age, our mitochondrial DNA accumulates errors, like a manuscript that has been photocopied too many times. The copies get fuzzier. The instructions become corrupted. The result is muscle cells that produce less energy, recover more slowly, and eventually stop working altogether. Hydroxytyrosol appears to slow that process of mitochondrial degradation by neutralizing the reactive oxygen species that caused the damage in the first place. I want to tell you about Thomas, 81 years old, retired Navy commander from Norfolk, Virginia. When he came to see me, he had not been able to walk more than 2 blocks without stopping to rest. His legs, he said, simply refused to cooperate. His diet was clean, or so he thought. Very low fat, very lean. He had been avoiding fat for 30 years based on the guidelines of his era. We introduced 4 tablespoons of high-quality extra virgin olive oil into his daily routine. 2 in the morning over eggs, 2 at lunch over vegetables. We made no other changes for the first month. At his 6-week follow-up, he walked 4 blocks without stopping. At 12 weeks, he was back on his bicycle. At 6 months, he completed a 2-mile walk for a veterans charity. He sent me the photograph from the finish line. I have it on my office wall. For practical use, 4 tablespoons daily is the evidence-based target. Use it as your primary cooking fat for low to medium heat. Drizzle it generously over vegetables, eggs, fish, and legumes. For maximum absorption of its fat-soluble polyphenols, pair it with foods that contain fat-soluble vitamins. Eggs, salmon, spinach, all of which you now know are already on this list. That synergy is not accidental. These 6 foods work together as a system, and when you combine them consistently, the cumulative effect on your leg strength, inflammation level,